Like many, Dan started drinking coffee for the caffeine.
Well, it was back in the college days. I started to like coffee because I needed to stay awake.
One day, he tried roasting the beans himself.
Well, way back when we were first married, my wife and I actually got some green beans and roasted them on a cast iron skillet over the stove. So maybe it was inherent that I would someday become a coffee roaster.
But being a coffee roaster wasn't something he necessarily thought he'd ever be doing.
No, I never thought I'd be a coffee roaster when I was growing up.
In fact, it wasn't until after he went on a vacation that he even realized he enjoyed this caliber of coffee.
Well, roasting we got into about 4 years ago. We started traveling to Costa Rica in the wintertime and had some really good coffee there right where it's grown. And when we came back to Cape Vincent after our trip, I couldn't find any coffee that I liked as much. And so I said to my wife that maybe we could buy a small home coffee roaster to put in our kitchen. She asked me how much it cost and how much room it would take up. And then asked me how much does a small commercial roaster cost? And one thing led to another, and we ended up buying a small commercial roaster. And at the same time, Amanda was starting the Cup of Joy coffee shop here in the Cape, and the timing was right, and she had some space, and so we're sort of sharing facilities, two separate businesses, but working together.
Of course, growing beans in northern New York, not an option.
And so the only place in the United States, apart from Hawaii, that they're starting to grow coffee is Southern California.
Their mission at Gato Diablo, the name of his coffee roasting business?
Well, our mission is twofold. It's to provide really good coffee for our customers, but also to raise awareness about environmental issues.
So they returned to where they had that initial revelation.
And because we had been to Costa Rica and seen different kinds of coffee farms where some are grown in row crops that looks like fields of corn, and others are grown underneath shade trees and provide habitat for other animals, we started looking for sustainable sources of our coffee, and that led us to both the Rainforest Alliance certification program and the Smithsonian Migratory Bird Center's bird-friendly certification program. And so now most of our coffees are grown on bird-friendly certified farms. And what that means is that the farms have to demonstrate that they're growing their coffee with organic processes. They have to have a certain structure of rainforest shade trees with different levels in the canopy. And the goal there is to provide habitat specifically for migratory birds, but also for local wildlife like sloths and monkeys and local birds. And it's important because a lot of migratory birds come here into northern New York in the springtime and then go to the tropics in the wintertime, and they need habitat at both ends of their journey.
The final step, where Dan comes in.
Well, the final product comes from a combination of the beans you choose and the way you roast them. And so I like to equate roasting coffee in terms of the degree of roast is from light to medium to dark to espresso. It's sort of like toasting bread. If you start with a green bean, it's like a raw piece of bread. But then as you toast it, a lightly toasted bread has a lot of the bread character and just a little bit of toasty character. And the darker you toast that bread, the more you're trading the flavor of the bread for the flavor of the crust that's toasted until you get to that burnt toast that just tastes like nothing good. And that's the same as if you roast your beans too long, it gets burnt and doesn't taste good.
For a list of places to buy Gato Diablo coffee, go to informNNY.com.